Hello everybody, Dark Skeleton here, and I'm back again for some more Old God card reviews, and I'd say things are arguably starting to heat up a little bit here, because we're getting some pretty solid class cards, starting with the Ravaging Ghoul, 3 cards for today. Ravaging Ghoul, 3/3 for 3 mana, Battle Cry, deal 1 damage to all other minions. Very obviously, people picked up on this one and were like, whoa, amazing, the return of Patron. And honestly, yeah, it is pretty dang good for Patron. A 3/3 that also gives you a Whirlwind effect that doesn't hit this minion on accident, that's pretty solid. I mean, you have an Armani Berserker, or whatever the guy's called, on the field. The 2/4 gains 1 attack for every damage that your minions take. You play this, that's like +4, +5 attack on that turn, in some circumstances. In many circumstances, actually. It's all minions, it's not just your own. So that's pretty strong. It could be like a game-finishing abusive sergeant, effectively. In other circumstances, you just play patrons, like you go patron, whirlwind, and play this guy maybe on a future turn. Yes, to play patron and Ravaging Ghoul is a lot of mana for 1 turn, that's true. But remember, you can also Emperor Tharzan, which makes that a lot more realistic. Um, Putting that aside, though, it can also be used to remove your opponent's minions. It's kind of a replacement for Unstable Ghoul. Arguably better, because Unstable Ghoul is a death battle. You need a lot of things to work out properly for that to work. But here with Ravaging Ghoul, you just play it, and if you have the right conditions on the field for it to work already, bam, you get the effect, gives you nice benefits. Armorsmith, Patron, Acolyte of Pain, lots of potential there. And even in control decks, I could see it being definitely a worthy candidate, getting extra card draws off of those acolytes, basically serving as a whirlwind without having to put whirlwind in the deck. Maybe getting a little bit more value for those more fatigue style decks, or even Reno Warrior. I don't know if that's really a thing right now, but yeah, control decks, fatigue decks, patron decks, all good candidates for Ravaging Ghoul. It is a pretty dang strong class card. I definitely think it's going to be played. Next up, the Mire Keeper. 4 mana, 3/3. Choose one. Summon a 2/2 slime, which would make this basically a 3/3 that gets you a 2/2 for 4 mana, a 5/5 of stats, but not exactly the same value as a 5/5 in most circumstances, or gain an empty mana crystal, which is effectively like paying a 3 mana 3/3 and then paying 1 extra mana for wild growth, but combined into 1 card. I think this card is incredibly good, especially if you're playing a ramp druid, which is just trying to get up as quick as possible to that 10 mana spot, where you can play cards like Cenarius, Ancient of Lore, Ancient of War, etc. Even pretty good for combo druid, honestly, if combo druid's still a thing. Um, at its worst, like you don't need the extra mana crystal, you play it as a 4 mana 5/5 of stats spread across 2 minions, which is pretty decent still. Uh, Maybe not as optimal as most 4 drops that are competitive, like let's say a piloted shredder, but still pretty solid. But definitely if you're trying to ramp up or you're playing that more mid-range or control style, then I think Mire Keeper is pretty dang good. Anything that gets you free mana crystals and doesn't have to give one to the opponent like the Dryad does, pretty good. Pretty good, definitely. I think this is going to be played, and I definitely am going to try it in my own decks. So last up for today, the Hammer of Twilight, 5 mana, 4/2 Shaman weapon. Death Battle summon a 4/2 elemental. Lots of people have been comparing this to Doom Hammer, but kind of they serve different purposes. Doom Hammer, yes, is incredible value for 5 mana, but you're really paying 7 mana because remember it has the overload too. So to say this is, oh, on par in cost with Doom Hammer, not really true. You could play this as a turn 5 in a mid-range Shaman deck, which is probably what it's intended for. Smack a couple cards as if you had played a true Silver Champion. You don't get the heal effect, but you do get a 4/2 Elemental on the second strike, which is arguably worth 1 extra mana over a true Silver Champion. I would say a 4/2 Elemental is better than 4 points of healing. So I think that this card is pretty much appropriately statted, given that true Silver Champion is very commonly played. And by that I mean every Paladin deck ever. I think this is at least good enough to see play in some mid-range decks. Now about Doomhammer, yes, Doomhammer, you can get a lot of burst with Rockbiter Weapon, but the thing about Doomhammer is it's great for aggro decks, but Hammer of Twilight is more about getting value for mid-range or maybe even control shaman decks. And getting that free minion off of a weapon is pretty nice. Um, so I think that this will be played in some specific shaman decks, namely the mid-range or control decks, which seem to be being pushed a lot in Old Gods, which is fine. I mean, me, as far as lots of other players, are really liking that aspect. So all three of these cards, pretty solid, I would say. Definitely think that they're going to at least see some play in certain decks. Aside from that, I've been Dark Skeleton. Thanks for tuning in, and in the next couple days, I'll have more Old God card reviews. So till then, see you guys.